As you can see, I'm wearing my SQL shirt today, which means I'm a SQL guy. I'm going to build something in a relational database. We're going to build ourselves a little simple application. So I'll connect, and the first thing is I'll create a customer table. So it'll have a customer ID, which is a primary key, an email address, and a full name, etc. I'll insert some sample data into it. I can be a customer here, that's me, my email address. I have spelt my surname wrong there, but I'll come back and fix that later. And there's my customer table. Now, customers will have orders, so I've created an orders table. We've got an order ID, it's the primary key. I've got an order date and time. I've got some order status, etc., some bits and pieces. The customer ID, that'll be a foreign key back to my customers table, and that'll do for my orders table. And let's put some sample data into it as well. So we'll put in some stuff which has been shipped, and we'll put in an order which is brand new as well. Okay, and underneath each order, we have what are actually in the order itself. So I'll have an order items table. I'll have an item ID, that'll be my primary key. An order ID goes back to my orders table, and I'll have a quantity and effectively the product name. So let's create some things in our order. So the first thing I bought was a phone, and the second one is, let's say, a TV. So here's my little application. I've got customers, they go to orders, and orders contain items. And so if I was building an application, I could build something in Apex, for example, and it could access those tables and do whatever it needs to access them. Now that's all well and good, except what if I have another development team floating around and they're building an application, say, in Node, or in any one of the myriad of frameworks for which JavaScript is the way they want to be dealing with their application, and therefore the sort of data framework they all want to use when they're accessing data from JavaScript is JSON data. Well, what I probably need to do is be able to expose my customer orders and orders items as JSON to those developers so that at least they can see the data. So let's do that now with something in 23C called a JSON duality view. So I create the JSON relational duality view. I've called it orders OV. And what I'm using is using our JSON objects, our JSON framework, to actually build a JSON fragment based on the data. So I'm going to start with the orders table. So I'm querying data from the orders table. And then for each order, I'm going to go get the customer's information with a subquery. So I'll go get the customer ID, their name, etc., their details, and that's going to be a customer's JSON fragment underneath my orders JSON fragment. So that gets from the customer table, linking back to the outer order ID using a simple join, and I'll also want to get the order line items. So in order items, I'll do select JSON again, the order items, and I'll go get my information from the order items table. Once again, I'll use the order ID on that table to link back to the orders table at the higher level. And that joined the condition, and we're pretty much done. Now, at this point, it's in the same way we could do this with a normal set of JSON. We could simply get our relational data, convert it to JSON, and give that to any application that wants to query it. But the relational duality view in 23C offers us so much more. Let's explore. First of all, let's make sure our JSON view is working. So I'll do a simple select star from orders OV, and we can see it comes out in JSON. It's not particularly well formatted, so I'll use JSON serialize to pretty up that data. So the same data now comes out and it's been prettied up. And you can see what we've got is, for each order information, we've got the order details, the customer details, the order items as well. And this duality view has added a couple of extra columns or extra items called the ID and the E tag. They're used for internal uses, which we'll see shortly. First, let's do what would appear to be some of the easy stuff. What I'll do is I'll focus on doing all my DMLs in the relational side of things. After all, I've got my SQL shirt on. So I'll insert a new item for a given order. I'm going to buy a laptop as well. Now, you'd imagine because this JSON view is just being built dynamically, if I do JSON serialize on my data, we can see there when I run my query that at the end we've now got both a TV and a laptop in order number 2. And therefore we have, immediately see the new laptop line item in my JSON structure. So that's fine for my Node developers. But here is the real game changer. This is a two-way street. My Node or my JavaScript developers can also make changes, and that will be reflected back in the relational side of things. Just to prove that, let's now do an update on the JSON duality view. I'm updating orders OV, and I'm going to do a transformation here. I'm going to do a JSON transform, and in this case, what I'm going to do is actually fix up that surname. My name was Connor MacDonald, MAC. It's meant to be just MC. So I'm using the JSON transform stuff that came out, I think, back in 19C, maybe 21, to actually correct that. So I'm directly updating the JSON information now. Now when I go query my JSON fragment, you can see that I have corrected my surname as well. But if that's just manipulated the JSON, what about my relational structures? Well, if I go back and look at customer now, you can see that, guess what? The relational structures are kept in sync. This is a bidirectional facility. I can manipulate the relational data and it's seen in the JSON data. I can manipulate the JSON data and it's seen in the relational data. All of a sudden, your different development needs and different development groups are fully catered for without having to have two copies of the data, without having to have a separate database, without having Mongo over here and Oracle over here. The whole thing can now be managed by the database for you. That is super cool. Let's do some more operations to see how powerful this is. I'm going to update my JSON structure. This time I'm going to use a JSON transform with an append. I'm adding a new element into my JSON structure. In this case, I'm going to add another line item to an existing order. This time, as well as a TV and a laptop, I'm going to grab myself a microwave as well. When I've done that, I go print out the JSON data, and you'll see that, yes, I've now got TV, laptop, and microwave. So my JSON's been updated, but if I go query my order items table for that particular order, guess what? I inserted a brand new row into the relational structure as well. The relational structure and the JSON structures have been kept in sync. Now, what if my developers are much more document DB sort of focused? They're not really thinking about the database as a genuine database. They're thinking about it purely as a document store. So they're going to grab entire chunks of JSON and just shunt them into the entire database in one thing. Well, it handles that as well. So let's declare a little anonymous block here. I've got some JSON. I'm going to create an entire JSON fragment to go into the database in one hit. So I've got an order ID, I've got an order time, an order status. Now there's some customer data. I'd use my existing customer record, so customer 1, Connor MacDonald, and my email address. And now I've got some order items. So I've got a order 300, a couple of fridges. Not sure why I need 2 fridges, but another order ID, quantity 1, and this will be a stove. So I'm decking out my kitchen. And there we have an entire JSON fragment. And I'm just going to insert that into a brand new record into my duality view. In that goes, and if I go query my relational data, I've got a brand new order in there, and if I go query my order items table, I've got a brand new set of items for that particular order. So this is huge. The ability now to have a relational sort of view of the world as well as a JSON view of the world, but not just in terms of query, but in terms of a single source of truth where both sets of requirements, both sets of developers can actively do DML against those things is enormous. We can now have the best of all worlds, whether you're document D focused, whether you're JSON focused, whether you're relational focused, all those camps can now sit together in a happy place and work together with a single source of data. Don't have to worry about data corruption, don't have to worry about conflicts. It all can be handled within the database duality views. Super cool feature, one of the real headline things coming in 23C.